The first thing I wanted to ask you about is because it was going through some of your past interviews, and you had one where you talked about the value of the 10-year grind that this band had reaching this point. And what I'm wondering is, with Greetings from Suffocate City, how is this a better album because of that 10-year grind?
Well, we were able to kind of find what we wanted to do, right? Like we weren't concerned about other people, right? Like for us, it was way more about what's happening right now, in this band and what we want to say and what we want to do. We had waited 10 years to get to that moment. So like what's another 10 years, I guess, to like to to make another one. So for us, I'm just like, I don't really care. I don't put a timeline. I don't put like it has to be out by this date or whatever, because for us, like, I don't want to rush anything ever,
Mhm. Mm.
ever.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to, if I put like, okay, well, we need it done by this quarter or what this is. And so for us, getting to finally like learn ourselves and it taking 10 years to learn who we are,
Mm.
to create the record that we want to create.
Mm. Okay. Because in the past, maybe you would have rushed it out. Maybe you would have been like, "Oh, we got to hit this particular mark, this deadline," and now it's like, "We'll release it when it's ready."
Yes, which is so, oh, I'm so hyped that we did that because talking about the record, like there was about 4 songs that made this record that weren't on the original version of this record, because this record was done in 20 we started really working it on, one of our songs, Holy Water. I mean, that we wrote that in 2018. It was released
Oh.
in 2019, but
Mhm.
we got to re-release it on this record. But like for us, like really, we dove in at the beginning of 2020 and we finished it towards the middle of 2022,
Mhm.
2021. I guess it was at the end of 2021 we kind of really finished it. So it about took about 2 years to write and record it. Then at the end of 23, we had some demos of new songs, but the record was still not out. So we were like, "Hey," we showed Lexi our A&R the songs, and she was like, "No, no, no, those like have to be on the record."
Mm.
So, like, if we would have just rushed it out, "You're So Ugly When You Cry," "Hearse for Two," "Chernobyl," what's another one? "Happier Than You," um, wouldn't have been on the record.
Oh, wow.
So half the record wouldn't be what the record is, if we would have just
Yeah.
rushed it out.
Right. No, because, those have become some pretty formative tracks,
Yes.
that tell this story. Um, so yeah, no, that's kind of and I mean, and kudos to your A&R person for saying we need to put this on, because
Yep.
normally it's the opposite. Like, no, we're on a schedule. Forget it. Save it for the
Yep.
next one.
Yep.
So that's impressive. Um, and you know, kind of along similar lines, I found this other cool quote of yours where you're talking about bands and that have had their success, and you said, "quote releasing music that they thought their audience wanted never elicited the same response as the music they released that was just for them." So, first off, I'm wondering, how long did it take you guys to make that connection with yourselves, to write from that perspective?
I think it was this record. I think we just wanted to write a record that we wanted to write. And especially the newer songs that made the record, they're very personable songs. What especially, Hearse for Two is about my grandmother passing away, and
Yeah.
it's basically this eh, not real love letter that my grandfather would write to her. That's basically the idea of losing it, and my grandfather is the best human to ever walk planet Earth, and same with my grandmother was as well. And so the idea of like, you know, losing that person after 60 years, 65 years, I think they were together, and it's like, what is it like? So I wrote a song about it.
Right.
And if we would have written that song just about whatever, like it wouldn't have been that song, right? And for us, it's way more about the personal connection that we bring, and fans love that. They love that story. They love that they get to live our lives with us, and it helps them too. I know there's so many fans of ours that like needed Hearst for Two. They need Stay Weird. They need Suffocate City. They need whatever there's Alien or whatever it is. You're so ugly when you cry. Whatever the song is, Dark Thoughts. Like
Mhm.
they need those songs. It just it needs that. It needs the fans need the songs. That's how we look at it. Like
Mhm.
we don't look at it as we're never writing to be pandering. We're
Right.
never writing a song for anybody but ourselves, and we hope that they find it. We hope that
Mhm.
these fans find the songs.
But the fascinating thing is it sounds like it's like, okay, the better you are at connecting with yourself will be the better you are at connecting with your audience.
Exactly, because that's exactly it. That's how it goes.
Which logically you're like, "Oh, no, that can't be how it works," you know? It's like, my way to them can't be through me. It's like you have to it's like you would think, "Oh, I gotta think about what's on their minds and what, they're dealing with," but really, it's, when you get it sounds like this ironically, by going the long way around, that's the straightest line between the 2 points because you hit on something that is core to everyone's experience.
Well, and that's it, right? Is if I'm writing about a real true feeling, or whatever it may be, right, that we're writing about, OCD, or the death of a grandparent, or whatever it may be,
Mhm.
like everyone deals with that, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone deals with that. I'm just telling my story of it.
Mhm. Yeah. And since you brought up Hershford too, one thing I wanted to ask you about was I was looking at some of the posts you've done, and you had a performance not too long ago where you performed that song, and your mom and your family were in the audience.
Yes.
How did you handle the intensity of that moment?
It sucked. It sucked. It was a lot. It's, there's something that I also didn't really talk about. I just was going through a massive breakup with now my ex-partner,
Mm.
literally days before that.
Oh,
And it was an emotional part, and getting to do that show sold out at our hometown venue, getting to do it in front of my mom and my family, with that's talking about their mom, you know what I mean? My aunts
right.
and uncles were there. That's their mom, that's my mom's mom, so it's like, I have a very close family. I see them when I'm home at least once a week, like
Mhm,
my
mhm.
aunts and uncles, but I still live at home. I have my studio here, but like this is my home. I live with my grandfather. I live with my mom, and I'm a very close person to my family. So for me, it was just a really magical moment. And seeing the crowd sing along and have a good time, and I saw some people crying and stuff, and knowing that my family was there, with that song was a big moment.
Because it's one thing to write a song and then to maybe play a recording of that for them,
Yes,
but then to because I've seen footage, there's no emotional holding back when you guys perform, so
yes,
clearly it's an intense thing no matter who is in the crowd, but,
yes.
I'm just you know, it's such a rare thing that you get to express all of this stuff that's in your heart and your soul, but to do it in front of those specific people, it's like my mind can't even fathom what it almost supposed to have been like an out of body experience.
It was. It really was. I'm very. It just makes you feel like nothing else, and
Mhm,
it's, again, that's the power of art, right? That's the power of music. That's the power of what we're doing, and that's why it's so important what we're doing, and that's why we love to do it, and that's why we're going to continue to do it. Like this is our life. This band is our life. Every single
mhm.
member. all of our crew, everything. Like we eat, sleep, and breathe the funeral portrait, and we're gonna continue that. And our
Mhm.
fans do too. That's the thing is, this morning I checked our we have a Facebook group for the Coffin Crew, which is our fandom. And this girl got tattooed right here. It says devotion, and it has our logo in it. And
Mm.
we call devotion. That's our like little bit. Everything's around the word devotion. And she got it tattooed on her, and she was like, "This band means so much to me. These songs, like everything, like it's it's a part of you. It's a part of what you are. And
Yeah.
it's turning into this it's turning into something that I never thought it would.
Mhm.
And I'm having most days I have a really hard time dealing with it. As you and I were talking about earlier, I had to move our time because had a therapy appointment.
Yeah.
And it's hard because on tour I can't talk to my therapist because of the laws of how practicing works. You have to be very
Mm.
careful because like some can do in different states and some can't. And if someone found out, I don't want him to lose his license. So for me, I have to go tours without talking to him. And I've been
Oh.
with him for 15 years. I've literally been
Mhm.
with the same therapist for 15 years, and he's helped me through some of the hardest times of my life, including the one that I'm in now of dealing with um a breakup, but also dealing with becoming this band that people actually like.
Mhm. Right.
It's easy to be a band that could just go play to 50 people a night, right? Or 10 people a night, but it's so much worse being a band that people get tattooed on, or
Yeah.
things just stick so much more now, and it's like there's a lot of weight on my shoulders. And that weight though is what kind of keeps me going. It makes me
Mhm.
get up every night, makes me um go do this and be me.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, not to put more pressure on you, but th the track that I've had personally on loop for a few days now is "Stay Weird." Um, that is to use your own words, I think it's an important song,
Mhm.
and I don't use that people throw that kind of thing around lightly, and I don't mean it that, I don't I'm not glib with that kind of thing. But especially now in today's days and times when people who are weird are very scared and feel like they're being hunted almost. Um to have something like that that's giving you permission to still be that way, you know, and it's a universal thing in the sense of, you know, I'm a 53-year-old guy who wears button-down shirts, but I still consider myself weird in my own way.
Way.
And
Well, and
yeah.
that's it. It's about celebrating your way, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. And that's something that I talk about. I've talked about a lot of our shows. It's a little hard when we have these like support slots or 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And I'm like, I'm trying to pump out all these songs, but also talk and explain what this band's about. But like what I talk about a lot, especially on the headliners, is I get my moments to talk. And, you know, for me, my weird and what I way to describe it of me living my dream and my living my weird, as I would say,
Yeah.
is through a microphone on a stage, right?
Mhm.
But that's not everybody's form of being weird or living their dream, right? It could
Right.
be at a computer, or it could be um at whatever it is, wherever it is or whatever they're doing, that they want to do with their weird or whatever they like or whatever it is, or especially our fan base, we have a lot of like queer people who like our band. We have a lot of people that want to just love who they love or love who they want to love. And for us as a band, like, do that as long as you're not hurting anyone. That's the big thing. That's something that
Yeah.
we, as long as you're not being abusive or being an actual weirdo,
You're
like
right, yeah.
or creep, like for us, that's so important, and that's what this band's about, is being you. And I really
Mhm.
hope that people see that, and that they, that they can recognize that. Stay Weird is such a important song on the record. I love that we get to play it sometimes, and it's turned into a big moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love the rest of the album. Like I would tell people that song alone is worth the price of admission.
Yep.
Um, and I'm always well, number one, in my own dealings with therapy, there's a lot of stuff that comes up that's similar to the messaging in there, where it feels like I've dealt with people that try to, okay, we're going to put you in this little niche, or you have to follow what we say, and if you do, you'll be successful and happy. And turns out that's a huge lie.
Yep.
Um, but what I'm what's great is also the presentation of the song, and because it is this very, not exactly, but kind of this Bohemian Rhapsody-esque rock opera, which, has this wonderful, it starts with the slow piano, and then it crashes in and goes up and down, and it's this ride. And I'm curious, did it form that way in your mind, or was that something that it evolved through you guys rehearsing it and working it out?
No, I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, right? Like, it's supposed to be this, like, big, larger than life, like, song, and it's wild because even live, we do it even more because like, the first minute and a half live is just piano and vocal, and maybe, just maybe there's a new version of it coming out, wink,
Mhm,
wink, nudge, nudge, on the deluxe edition of our record that is
mhm.
very similar to the way that we play it live, and I think it's very important that we do it that way,
Yeah, yeah. No, to be honest, I did look at YouTube earlier and found someone had put up a little snippet of the way you guys do it live, and I'm like,
Yep,
"Oh, this is an interesting little spin." So,
yep.
yeah, I'm curious to hear the new recorded version of that. Um, and then, also, going along the lines of Hearse for Two, and there's a number of songs where you have guest vocalists, that you're trading lines with, trading verses with. And I'm curious about, did having them involved make you see your own songs in different ways?
No, for sure. All the songs were written before all of them came in, right? So we have versions of just me singing, which is cool, and some of them were released that way first, and then we added them in, and I think for us though, we just um it was cool, especially with First for Two, you know. I wanted a female vocalist on the song before we released it.
Mm.
Um, so much that we literally took one of my if you listen to the original version of Hers for Two, that's like on the record, it's my voice, but tuned to sound like a female
Oh.
because we couldn't find one because we were so crunched on time. All the female vocalists we knew were going to be like features, right? And none of them were available during the time that we needed to release the song and release the record. And it was just one thing after the next. So we were like, okay, well, let's work on this next year. And we started to, and that's when, um, with Lilith, aka Juliet Sims,
Mhm.
came in and it was one of those things that it was like, okay, cool. Like it worked, and I wish she was on the original version so much because I just love it so much. But I love that it is getting the attention that it needs to now, with
Mhm.
her. But it's just one of those things that it's like I'm so excited on that song. I think that song needed it because it did. It brought such a new life to it. It's just like Suffocate City. Like Suffocate City needed Spencer because he brought in the his oomph, his
Mhm.
aggression. It's just like our new version of Holy Water that has Ivan from Five Finger on it, like
Yeah.
it needed that. It needed that voice, that power, and him and I talked about the song and he loves it. It's literally about the music industry. The song is about the music industry and how they take advantage of new young artists, and they exploit them, and
Yeah.
that's for anybody in life. That's for anything, there's so many people out there that deal with what the song is about, and it's cool to have these conversations with these guest features and them understand it and then want to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the funny coincidence is, singer from Five Finger on that one, and then also, if you think about it, the band Five for Fighting, their
Yep,
name, a hockey reference, but it came from that was his experience with dealing with the music industry.
that's so funny.
You know,
But that's
so
true though.
yeah,
You know,
um,
the music industry is a very rough spot. It is it's a rough world to be in. I'm very blessed to be where I am now, but at the same time, it's 10 years of hard work. That's how
hmm
we got here. We
yeah,
got here by us grinding it out in a shitty van
yeah,
for 10 long years. And we took the worst of worst tours. And so when eventually the decent tours started coming, we were able to say, "Oh my God, we're so blessed. We're so thankful. We're so thankful."
yeah. Well, and it's good that you have that perspective because I work with a bunch of different bands. One of the ones I work with is Huey Lewis and the News, and Huey's always said, he said, it's not the climb that breaks bands up; it's the success. Because when you're starting out, it's you're a tight unit and you're taking on the world, and you can see throughout the history of the music industry, there's a lot of bands that hit success and then that just destroys them.
Destroys them.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's a relief that you guys seem to be in sync as far as your attitude on all
Well,
of
we are
this.
because for us, we wouldn't want to have it any other way. I don't want to do this with anyone else. I want to do it with my guys. I want to do it with our front of house guy and our tour manager. I want to do it with our merch girl. I want to do it with our manager. I want to do it with our booking agents. I want to do it with our label. These are who I want to work with. I believe in them. They believe in us. And this is what we want to do. And
Mm,
it's going to take a team. It's going to take a team. As they say, it's going to take a village, and it
yeah.
is, and it has, and that's what's happening. And it's not just us.
Hmm.
Everybody has to be 100% in, no, all time, and
Yeah.
that's what is happening.
And I'm also wondering as you guys have evolved as a band, you know, in what ways have the other band members changed or stepped up more when it comes to crafting a song?
Yeah, so um a lot has changed with that because we have Caleb now. So this, Greetings from Suffocate City, he wrote the newer songs, right? For the record. So like You're So Ugly and You Cry. He
Mhm.
was involved with all four of the newer songs that were like made in. And then talking about the deluxe edition, there's two songs on the deluxe edition that are his as well that would never have seen the light of day if he wasn't involved. So talking about the next record, he is going to be like the main songwriter with me and my lyrics and my vibes, but it's
Yeah.
it's because before we were so relied on the producer and or songwriter.
Mhm.
Now we can actually be the funeral portrait, and that's so important to us. And we have people in the band that are great songwriters and that are great storytellers, and yes, I'm down to still work with songwriters and I'm still down to work with producers, and we're working with
Yeah.
some incredible ones on the next record. And for us, we just feel like we found the funeral portrait, and a lot of that is because Caleb came in. A lot of that is because Cody stepped up more, and Homer, our drummer, all the drum parts are all him. That's him.
Mhm.
He is the drummer of the band. He is the funeral portrait's drummer. And Rob, our bassist. The best thing with him is he's a great showman, and that's what I
Yeah.
need. I need a great showman. I need him to get up there and have a good time, and that's so important to us. The show is just as important as the songs.
Yeah. And it's funny because you look at any footage, and inevitably you will come across a point where your bassist is balancing his bass in his mouth, upside down, and I'm like, A, these guys, will do anything to entertain, and B, I hope they have a comprehensive dental program because that's gonna
Yeah,
take a toll.
it does, you should see the bass, though. The bass has got that you should see right where he does it every night, it's just got the indention. It's like he's cutting down way past the wood now, so
Right, he'll just hand that to the dentist from now on, and yeah, all right,
yes.
no need for X-rays or scans.
X-rays, the molds, yeah, here's a
Yeah,
mold.
right.
Yep.
And then, the fascinating thing about a lot of these songs, particularly about the title track, Suffocate City, and hearing you talk about it, is there's two opposing ideas that are kind of interwoven simultaneously in the song. Stuck in a place you don't want to be in, but also finding that place where you're accepted. Um, can't escape, don't want to leave. And I'm wondering, it's a tricky thing, and I'm wondering how one writes something from two different perspectives at once.
Um, because I've been both, right?
Hmm.
I've been in both. I've been in both for my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm very, you know, I've been in situations before that I wanted out so bad, and I would do anything to be out, right? I wanna leave, right? But I can't escape. And then I've also been in places that I finally found like I belong here. I finally belong, like this is my place. But you also have to leave somewhere to finally belong, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's one of those things that it is about leaving, you know, what it is that scares you the most, right? But also accepting that it's okay to be scared.
Hmm. I mean, that's also like, because I found this other quote of yours. I think it was Holy Water, where it's, as you said, confronting your darkest moments and finding the strength to cleanse yourself of the weight that they carry. The first part is hard enough.
Yep.
I would argue most people don't even make it to the second part. So, how does one tackle that second part?
Well, I think of coming to the realization of you are who you are, right? And that's okay, right? Being okay with being who you are, even if it's if you're not the best person ever, right? Like maybe you've done some really bad things, right? Maybe you've hurt people.
Mhm.
You've broken up with them or something. I'm not saying like actually bad stuff. If you're an actually bad person, you're actually a bad person. But I mean, if stuff of like ending a relationship, right? Or, um, things that you aren't, so happy about that you did in your life, or whatever. It's about coming to realization of being like you are who you are, and be who you are, and just be okay with that. It's hard, and forgiving yourself is half the battle, right?
Mhm.
um and that's a huge part, is forgiving yourself. Once you can forgive yourself, you can kind of move on, and you can get better, and you can feel better. I think for me, I there's many parts of my life where I've hated myself, just because I hate myself, not because I did anything wrong, just who I am, right? And my mental struggles and what I've dealt with. But it's about what you do with it, right? It's about like what are you doing with that, right? Like how do you get better? Letting yourself
Mhm.
get better, believing in yourself, like all those things are just important.
Mm. Have you ever had a time where you thought, "Wow, maybe I exposed too much on this particular song?"
No, because I don't think that exists for me,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm very an open book. Everything that I do and everything that I want to do is very open. My struggles are very open. My successes are also very open. I live a very open life, but that's also why I think people are drawn to our band and drawn to me, is because I am very open, and I'm very black and white. I'm just like them. That's what it is. I'm a human. I think of bands like, like Sleep Token and bands that get to, like, hide their identity and or, like, Bad Omens who, like, deleted all their social media, personal social media, and they, like, don't have to, like, post or anything, like,
Mhm.
they live that life, but that's just not me. Like, that's not who I am. I am who I am, and who I am is the person that wants to help people. I wanna help, and I wanna help them by realizing that, like, I'm just as messed up as them, or I've gotten through it, I've gotten better, you know?
Mhm. So then you're saying there probably is not much of a difference between who Lee is on stage and who Lee is off stage.
Yeah, no, not really, not much. I do keep a personal life personal, but, like, I think it's still one of those things that it's like, I'm not really that different than who I
Mhm.
am because I'm a helper. I love people. I love getting to interact with people. I love doing what I do, and I'm going to continue that. Like that's what we're doing, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
So that primarily takes care of my stuff. What I'm wondering is, because you've been doing a lot of interviews for this album, is there anything that you wanna talk about that people haven't been asking you about?
Mm.
It's like, well, people always ask me about this song or that song, but, it's like, what I'd really love to talk about is X.
No, I think you've done a really good job on this for
Oh, well,
real.
thank you.
You did your research, which is great. So it's cool. No, I think you've hit a lot of it. I think for us, we are a band for the people. You know what I mean? Like we're a band for our fans. We're a band for, the people that just want to live,
Mhm.
and maybe it's a struggle for them every day to live. So, it's pretty cool to get to do that.